بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
للداء دواء يا إخوة ورسول الله هو الأسوة. نبراس الدعوة يصحبكم حييتم بوركة الخطوات. للداء دواء يا إخوة ورسول الله هو الأسوة. نبراس الدعوة يصحبكم حييتم بوركة الخطوات.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وصلى الله وسلم على رسول الله وعلى آله لا تحار وصحابة الأبرار. وسبحانك اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، يقول الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد صرفنا في هذا القرآن للناس من كل مثل وكان الإنسان أكثر شيء جدلا. ثم أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this day, and we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Kahf, the translation more or less is that whatever we want, whatever we need can be found in Al-Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put all the similitudes that we need to derive lessons from that. So in a nutshell, Quran then becomes a manual of do's and don'ts that are supposed to guide our lives. And in it we find practical solution to our problems, be it spiritual, economical, technological, social, mental, psychological, physiological, and the list goes on. Inshallah, the topic that we're going to discuss is how to beat diabetes with prophetic medicine. First, inshallah, I'm going to talk about diabetes, what it is, the symptoms, the possible causes, our responsibility as Muslims of how to help tackle this problem, and inshallah the solution. But the disclaimer is that whatever I'm going to say here is not to supersede your doctor's advice. It's just for educational purpose. So even though inshallah what we're going to talk about and the solution is sourced from Quran, Sunnah, and science, yet I'm saying it very clearly: before you try whatever it is, you are advised to consult your doctor. So inshallah we have a lot to share. Let us begin. We've been hearing about diabetes, a disease that here in America we have somewhere, according to some reports, somewhere between 16 to 18 million cases, and each year we have 1 million new cases, and that is very disturbing. In fact, according to World Health Organization, by the year 2025, about 300 million people around the world would have had diabetes. So let us then ask ourselves, what is diabetes? You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He designed the body, in between the liver and the stomach, you have an organ called pancreas. Part of the pancreas job is to see to it that you don't have much glucose. Sometimes we say blood glucose, sometimes we say glucose, sometimes we say blood sugar. You don't have much in your blood. So anytime you eat food, particularly carbohydrates, but even proteins and fats, they will be broken down, and in one way or the other, the body will turn it into glucose. To burn it for energy. And so if you have too much in your blood, that is not good for you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed the pancreas to excrete a hormone called insulin. And insulin will see to it that it helps the body to take the glucose from the blood into your cells, the tissues where the glucose is needed. To give an example, we have right here, we have Turnpike, New Jersey Turnpike. Now when it snows, it's not easy to drive. So the sanitation department will send in their crew to come and what? To clear the road so that you can ply the road easily. Now the sanitation department is the pancreas. The crew to clear the road is the insulin. So just as sanitation department will send in trucks and mashallah those workers to clear the road, likewise the pancreas will excrete insulin to clear your blood of too much glucose. So that just as by doing that, the snowman clearing the way, cars can easily pass by, so that inside your blood, the blood can flow relatively slow without too much sugar in it. I hope we're clear. Naam. If you have too much sugar, then the insulin is the insulin's job to help get it out from the blood. With all this wiring, plumbing, so to speak, the arteries that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has wired, so to speak, throughout our body, and the veins. And according to one report, if it were to be stretched, it could cover up to 60 million miles. Could you imagine that? And that's a lot. And imagine all these pipes. I'm saying pipes instead of saying arteries. I'm just trying to make it that simple. So you have all these pipes where blood will be flowing, the plumbing system, so to speak. If insulin cannot get the blood glucose from the blood, into your cells. Your cells are basically the bricks that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you with. It's just like a building. You put brick here, you put brick there. Likewise, I'm just trying to give an example to make it that simple, because when you get to this medical term, sometimes it becomes very complicated. Just as you put a brick here, brick there, that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. With one brick coming from the father and the mother, turning into 2, turning into 4, 8, 16, 32. From that one brick, or from that one cell, by the time you are an adult, you have approximately 100 trillion cells that makes up your body. And each cell or each brick of your body will need glucose to function, because it has to burn it for energy. And that's where insulin comes in. In other words, to take this glucose that is coming from the food that you eat, the nutrients, take it so that it gives each cell the amount that it requires to survive, to burn it for energy. But sometimes the insulin cannot get the glucose from the blood for different reasons. Sometimes is because the insulin is not working. Why? It depends on which type of diabetes we're talking about. As a matter of fact, some diabetes have even nothing to do with the pancreas. Like diabetes insipidus, that has to do with your kidneys. But this is very rare. And then we have type 1 diabetes. With type 1 diabetes, some of the causes, according to scientists, are the autoimmune problem, whereby your body's own immune system attacks the beta cells where insulin are made inside your pancreas. So now you can't excrete insulin. So without insulin, you can't get the glucose from your blood, and so it stays in your blood. And once it's too much, then you'll be diagnosed as being hyperglycemic. In other words, you have hyperglycemia, which means you have too much blood, too much glucose inside your blood. And that is a forerunner to what? To diabetes. And sometimes they say they attribute, although it's controversial, some are saying that it sometimes has to do with toxins and vaccinations, and sometimes exposing kids to milk at their early age. For some genetic reason, they may react to protein called casein in the milk, and sometimes that actually affects the pancreas, and so it cannot excrete insulin to get too much glucose that is running inside your blood to get it out. Now, if it can get it out, which means it's going to stabilize it. But again, type 1 diabetes is somewhere between 5 to 10%. And then we have type 2 diabetes, which basically we're going to talk about because it's the most common type of diabetes. And then we have type 3 diabetes, where some are saying it has to do with electricity around us affecting our body, and some are actually saying that also include Alzheimer's and stuff. But basically what we're going to talk about is type 2 diabetes. With type 2 diabetes, it's because either the pancreas is not excreting enough insulin, or it excretes insulin, but the insulin cannot do its job. So we say that is, you are insulin resistant. The insulin is there, but it can't do its job. Imagine the sanitation department sending their crew to go clear the highway, but the ramp they're going to use to get on the highway is blocked. How can they clear the snow? So they can't. So now, which means the body is resistant to the body is resistant to the insulin, which is supposed to clear the glucose from the sugar, so that you will have normal glucose. You need some glucose in your blood. It shouldn't be too much. It shouldn't be too low. If it's less, then you are hypoglycemic, and that also has its problem, which includes dizziness, confusion, and whatever. Sometimes that can even get you into coma. And so, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Rahman, from there we know everything should be in a balance. It shouldn't be too much, and it shouldn't be too low. And again, with the glucose inside the blood, if it's too less, because you're not eating, it is the liver's job to put in back some glucose so that you can function normal. So between the liver and the pancreas, they have to ensure that you have steady blood sugar, and that weighs between having 80 to 110. Some state will say 120 in between. But then in between these, mostly they will say 100 should be the normal glucose that you have per deciliter. So with this, let us now ask ourselves, why will the pancreas send in insulin and yet the body is resistant? Or why will pancreas fail, so to speak, to excrete enough insulin to do the job? And basically that has to do with mostly our lifestyle. And that's why some call type 2 diabetes man-made diabetes. Why? They say it's because with type 1 diabetes, sometimes this is coming from genetics, it's coming from your family. There's nothing you can do about it. But generally speaking, with type 2 diabetes, it may have genetic component to it, but generally speaking, it has to do with our lifestyle. Now, if you are having 1 million new cases each year, what is our responsibility as Muslims? First of all, we should know that there is a link between Surah Al-Rahman and diabetes. And I know someone will say, Jewish, I know Surah Al-Rahman, I've been reading Surah Al-Rahman, I've memorized Surah Al-Rahman, but I don't see where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions diabetes. Is this kind of bid'ah or something? So then let us analyze. We all know in Surah Al-Imran, it is our duty, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. This is our responsibility as Muslims. Enjoying that which is good, forbidding that which is bad, right? And then firmly believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ, right there, we know when we have problem, if it's medical problem, Quran should have solution to that. Because as shifa here, although looking at the surface of it, we have every right to interpret it to mean spiritual disease. So it's spiritual healing. But we also have Islamic medical branch, so to speak. The only system, the only religion, for lack of better term, that has a medical branch in the world is Islam. You can't find it with Christianity, not Judaism, not Hinduism, not any ism. Islam is the only system or the only religion with a medical branch, and that is Tibb Nabawi. But it's very unfortunate that even Muslims, we seem to have forgotten about this legacy. What the Prophet ﷺ taught us. Well, if it is our duty to enjoy that which is right and forbid that which is bad, then if 1 million of our own, 1 million Americans are suffering from diabetes, what is our duty as Muslims? And I'm saying that it's our duty based on ta'amuruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhawna 'anil munkar to see to it that we involve in what I call the medical dawah, to teach them how to avoid type 2 diabetes, and when a person have diabetes, how actually to cure it or to reverse it. Why? Because each and every day, at least 17 times in our salat, we will be reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. And we've been asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, sirat alladhina an'amta alayhim. The path, we asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the path of those whom he has favored. And who are those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favored? وَلَا يُنَبِّئُكَ مِثْلُ خَبِيرٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says in Surah An-Nisa, Quran chapter 4, verses 69, وَمَن يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ, right? وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. Which means each and every day we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put us on the path of prophets and siddiqeen, those who firmly believe. And then we have shuhada wa salihin. If this is the case, then we should ask ourselves, what are their sunnah? The sunnah of the prophets sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The prophets, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and other prophets alayhi salam, and then we have the Sahaba, from where we will have the qualification of Siddiqeen, and then mashallah those who follow their path, and the Salaf, those that follow. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes. According to Dr. Atkins, he coded the order of the saccharine disease, a book called The Saccharine Disease. They have what they call the law of 20 years. The law of 20 years. And what does that mean? Dr. Atkins quotes this order as saying that anytime you introduce refined carbohydrates into any culture, within 20 years, 2 diseases will rear their ugly heads. 2 diseases: diabetes and heart disease. And there is nothing you can do about it. And so from this research and actually subsequent research, that actually confirmed what this man claimed, is that type 2 diabetes mostly has to do with our lifestyle and the type of food that we eat, especially refined carbohydrates. And this is where I'm saying that type 2 diabetes is actually because of violation of Surah Al-Rahman. And so now let us backtrack and ask ourselves, what type of food? Because we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let us strive on the path of those whom He has favored. And these are the people. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says or commands the prophets to eat right. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الرسل قولوا من طيبات وأعملوا صالحا إني بما تعملون عليم. O prophets, eat that which is right. Eat food that is nutritious. This is the translation or the interpretation of Ibn Kathir. And what about those who follow? The Siddiqeen, the Shuhada, and the Salihin. We can drive this in Quran chapter 18, Surah Kahf. To give an example, that Ashab al-Kahf, when they were about to eat, when they sent one of them to go buy food, they didn't tell him to buy any food, just bring food. No, there is a criteria which is in sync with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the prophets. And so they specifically commanded the one they sent in, فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَيُّهَا أَزْكَى طَعَامٍ. And so it's not just any food, it's just the right food. And so in Surah Al-Baqarah, Quran chapter 2, verse 168, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls on the world, humanity, saying, Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Ya ayyuhan nasu kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiba. O mankind, eat that which is halal, and not only halal, it should also be tayyib. And Ibn Kathir describes this tayyib as food that is nutritious and food that is not harmful to the body. And since we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let us strive, to let us be on the path of those whom He has favored, and this is the way they eat. Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell the prophets to eat right, of course, sami'na wa ata'na, they will surely eat right. And those that follow, the Siddiqeen and the Shuhada, they ate right. So which means it's incumbent upon us as Muslims to eat right. Why? If you move from 168 in Surah Al-Baqarah, they say, if you move to 172, Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum washkuru lillahi in kuntum iyyahu ta'budun. And so now it's very clear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commands humanity to eat right, and not specifically to Muslims. And so if you derive from Surah Ali Imran, Quran chapter 3, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to tell Ahl al-Kitab, Ya Ahl al-Kitab ta'alu ila kalmatin sawa'in baynana wa baynakum alla na'budu illa iyyah wa la nushrika bihi shay'an wa la yattakhidha ba'duna ba'dan arbaban min dunillah fa in tawallaw, if they deviate, at least we shall be on the path of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I hope you following my logic. فَإِن تَوْلَوْا فَقُولُوا شَهَادُوا بِأَنَّا. If they deviate, at least they should bear witness that we have decided to follow the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if this is the case, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to eat right, telling mankind to eat right, if mankind decide not to eat right, at least they should bear witness that we should be eating right. And unfortunately, this is where we failed miserably as Muslims. Because even though, alhamdulillah, we make sure that our food is halal, but is it really tayyib? Because it should qualify both. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say just eat. Eat right. That is why it qualifies with the word tayyib, to eat right. And do we really eat right? If we do eat right, then of course, inshallah, we can protect ourselves from type 2 diabetes. Then we'll have the moral authority to tell them, listen, this is what Islam has done. This is the solution from Islam, and this is what you should be doing. And now you may ask, what has that got to do with Surah Al-Rahman? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Rahman, Quran chapter 55, Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, wal arda wadaha lil anam fiha fakiyatun wan nakhlu dhatul akmam wal habbu dhul asf wal rayhan. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He has spread this earth for us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a list of foods, fiha fakiyatun wan nakhlu dhatul akmam, and the point is wal habbu dhul asf wal rayhan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a grain with its husk, with its cover. And so we should be eating whole grains. Now, if you separate al-hab from al-asf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, wal-habbu dhul asf. The grain with its husk, with its cover. If you separate the grain, al-hab, from al-asf, from its husk, from its cover, you have refined carbohydrates. And so what the author of the saccharine disease said, which science confirmed, has been something that has to do with our religion over 1,400 years ago. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always give us the tools, but we have to do the homework. And sometimes it's just like a puzzle. You have to take from this part and that part. When you combine them, they will have a whole picture. And this is an example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين. 5 pillars of Iman. Where is the 6th? You have to come down from Quran chapter 2. You have to come all the way to Quran chapter 54, which is Surah Al-Qamar. Bada a'udhu billahi min shaitan rajim. Inna kulla shay'in khalaqnahu biqadar. Wa ma amruna illa wahidatun kalamhim bil basar. Quran chapter 54, verse 49. And so you have 5 pillars in Surah Al-Baqarah. The 6th one, you have to take it from Surah Al-Qamar. And so you'll have what? The complete picture. And so if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, when it comes to grain, to eat whole grain, why are we engaged? Why do we enjoy refined carbohydrates? And again, in Sahih Bukhari, book number 7, volume 65, hadith number 321 to 325, Sallaw radiallahu anhu was asking about this same thing, about refined carbohydrates. And he said, we're not touching it. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ never touched it. If the Prophet ﷺ never used refined carbohydrates, and for that reason, Sallaw is telling us they are not using it, which means by extension, it's not food for the Ummah. I hope you understand my logic. And so just by ignoring this point in Surah Al-Rahman, 1 million people will be paying the price each year. And then says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in so many different verses. For instance, in Surah Al-Mulk, Quran chapter 67, Bada a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. وهو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور. After spreading this earth for us, فامشوا في مناكبها, work on its surface. We should work. So this tells us that we are not supposed to be sedentary. We're supposed to be active. That's why even on Fridays, when we have any reason to relax, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. Even on Fridays, there is no excuse to be sedentary. We should be active. In Sunan of Abu Dawood, we all have read how the Prophet ﷺ used to jog with Aisha radiallahu anha. So this tells us that sedentary life has no place in our religion. So we should be active. We should engage in exercise. The Sahaba, radiallahu anhu, we know that even those who are close to the masjid, anytime they're going to the masjid, those who are close, taking into consideration that those who are coming from far, by walking with each step they will having more reward. The Sahaba who are close to the masjid will not just come straight to the masjid, they will just go round and round and round. What? Just by doing that, they are being active. That is what we call either power walking or we call aerobic exercise. So listen, just by doing that, Allah, you are acquiring reward, and you are actually promoting what? Your own health, so to speak. But look at us today. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Now let us for a moment talk about us as Muslims. That instead of applying this in our lives, we seem to have forgotten that this is part and parcel of our lives. And it's very unfortunate how myopic we look at our religion, this very beautiful religion. And we think once you come to masjid, mashallah, you pray, you go to Hajj, fasting, that's it. So once you step out of the masjid, that's it. You are just like anybody else. No. For each and every movement, each and every thought, each and every action should be guided by the principles of what? Quran and Sunnah. And we have everything in there. You just have to know how to connect the dots, so to speak. And so now we have refined carbohydrates, sedentary life. As a matter of fact, in the prophetic medicine of Imam As-Suyuti, in his Tibb al-Nabawi, he quotes Athar from Umar radiallahu anhu as warning Muslims of two things: eating too much and having pot belly. And subhanallah, today they're saying that just by having pot belly, that dramatically increases your risk of diabetes. And then we have sugar. Why on earth, with all due respect, why on earth will Muslim eat sugar? Why? Why? There are over 70 different ways that sugar can harm your health. Says, nobody is saying that you should enjoy life or enjoy your food. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قل من حرم زينة الله الذي أخرج لعباده والطيبات من الرزق. It should always enjoy, but it should be what? Beneficial to your body. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وأوحى ربك إلى النحل أن اتخذي من الجبال بيوتا ومن الشجر ومما يخشون ثم كلي من كل ثمرات فاسلكي سبل ربك ذللا يخرج من بطونها شراب مختلف ألوانه فيه شفاء للناس إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. In Quran chapter 16, Surah Al-Minhaal, verses 68 to 69, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of how He inspires the bee. And the point that we need here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions of honey. And He says, Fihi shifa'ul linnas. Guaranteed, is healing. There is healing in it. I was once invited on TV program to talk about the health benefits of honey. And they gave me 1 hour. I said, 1 hour is not enough. I said, you're going to talk about honey, 1 hour is not enough? I said, yes. They thought I was joking. They have to invite me back. Because by the time I broke down what is honey, the dancing of honey, the calculation that they do before they gather honey, and what type of fruits they eat by their calculation, and how to get it back, how to extract the honey, and all this compacting it to have vitamins. For instance, vitamin B1, vitamin B2, vitamin B6, vitamin B9, vitamin B12, the enzymes, the dextrose. By the time I broke all this down, it's time. So they have to invite me again. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Fihi shifa'un linnas. Imagine that. The creator, the designer of the body, says this is good for your health. And we say, no, this is 21st century. We are not saying it with our mouth. We can't do that as Muslims. But if action speaks louder than words, is something to go by. That's exactly what we're doing. And so now, instead of honey, instead of natural sweetness like honey, which actually helps stabilize your blood sugar level, instead of using honey, the natural sweetness, honey, stevia, xylitol, maple syrup, agave, instead of using these, we said we want it quick and we want it now. So we would take sugar. I'm not saying sugar is haram. No. Sugar is halal. But is it tayyib? Halal and tayyiba. Sugar is halal, but is it tayyib? It doesn't qualify. So by that, it's not our food. I hope we are on the same page. So in other words, if we will eat right and make sure that the refined carbohydrates, which the Prophet ﷺ never used, which is against Surah Al-Rahman, which Sallaw radiallahu anhu told us that they never touch it, and by extension it's not food for the ummah. If you will stay away from this and stay away from this white flour, the cookies and whatever, and then thinking of Surah Al-Minhaal, and then staying away from all this sugar loaded drinks, the sodas and stuff, and remember in Sunnah of Abu Dawood, and here it is in Surah Al-Mulk, in Surah Al-Jum'ah, and all these, we're supposed to be active. And so instead of coming to masjid using the shortcut, we should be active. We should engage in exercise. And Umar radiallahu anhu warning us about eating too much, which is basically against Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. Quran chapter 7. And we're not eating too much to overwhelm the system, and we're eating right. We're staying away from sugar, and we're exercising, and we make sure that our carbohydrate is complex carbohydrate, not refined carbohydrates, which means we can keep type 2 diabetes at bay. And we are not doing something new. We're not innovating anything. This is part and parcel of our religion. It's part and parcel of Islam. And even to boost our system, we ensure that we take the right amount of food. And today, sometimes, subhanAllah, you see a Muslim eating the plate, the food, the rice. Not only is it white rice instead of brown rice, not only is it white rice, it's actually way up, like Mountain Kilimanjaro. And eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. That's why sometimes you see, subhanAllah, some brothers sometimes, even in Ramadan, they put on weight. Could you imagine that? MashaAllah, the person will fast. But in the evening, because he missed his lunch, he has to ensure that he covers that up. So he eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. And we're not eating right. We're not taking the right, even though that will expand that under heart disease. We're eating too much meat, too much oily food, and not oily food. We're eating the wrong oils. If you will be having olive oil, black seed oil, macadamia oil, coconut oil, if you have all this and then you put them and we want junk and the transfers and others, of course we will pay for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants towards the end of Surah An-Nur. فَلْيَحْذَرُ الَّذِينَ يُخَالِفُونَ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ أَنْ تُصِيبَهُمْ فِتْنَةٌ أَوْ يُصِيبَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَلِيمٌ. Let those who go against the teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam beware, lest there is a price to pay. There is a price to pay. Of course, none of us can be perfect, but at least there are some basic things that we can take care of. And when it comes to food, just as Islam guides you to come and pray, be nice, be gentle, be generous, be kind to your neighbors, Muslims and non-Muslims. Ensure that anytime we move to a place, as a Muslim, you have a positive impact on the community. You are there to contribute. And that is what Islam requires of you. You live an exemplary life for non-Muslim to copy. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ. The best mankind ever evolved, but then with condition. تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ. It's not just like that. No, it comes with a condition. And nutrition, which forms the basis of Tibb Nabawi, is something that we should be observing. Even when it comes to food, we shouldn't just eat any food. We should eat food that Islam prescribes. So that inshallah we can keep type 2 diabetes at bay. And we can improve our type 1 diabetes. We know from hadith, the Prophet ﷺ recommended the milk of camel, because of healing properties. This is in Tibb Nabawi of Imam As-Suyuti and also Imam Ibn Qayyim. And guess what? Today, the same camel milk that the Prophet ﷺ recommended for its healing property is the best source of lactoferrin that helps with type 1 diabetes. By using it, it cuts your dependence on insulin by whooping 80%, and that's a lot. Nothing can match it. And if you look in Surah Al-Rahman, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts this list, He places fruits on top of the list. And yet we don't eat fruits. The only time we eat fruits, mostly, is on Mondays or Thursdays. Why? MashaAllah, you came to, you are in to pray Maghrib, a brother, because some brothers, MashaAllah, fasting, they brought some fruits. That's the only time we eat fruits mostly. We don't eat fruits. But you read throughout Quran. Innal muttaqina mafaza hadaika. What will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them with? Fruits. Grapes. In Surah Al-Rahman we know about fruits, grapes, we know about dates. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about pomegranates. Why will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention these foods? We don't seem to care. This opens what? A door for research into the medicinal properties of these fruits. Fruits in general, but particularly these fruits. Why will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swear by tin? What tin was zaytun? And the beauty of it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions fig only once. Zaytun 7 times. And the combination of 7 substances from 7 olives and 1 fig gives you a compound that is very, very effective in protecting the brain. This is one of the reasons why some scientists in Japan accepted Islam. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Watin was zaytun." And we know in Quran, part of the uniqueness of Quran is the words have been calibrated and each has connection with the verse before it and the one after it. And so when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Watin was zaytun, wa tur sinin, wa hadha al-balad al-amin, laqad khalaqna al-insana fi ahsani taqwim, thumma radadnahu asfala safilin." Connecting that with Surah Yasin, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَقِّسُهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ, it gives you a decline of memory. And if by swearing with fig and olives, and this mentioned 7 times and this once, and gives you a substance that boosts the brain, then it's a miracle. And so these scientists in Japan said this cannot be coincidence. The man must have been taught by Almighty God. So they have no reason to reject Islam, so they accepted Islam. They are coming in wondering, and we are already in it, and we don't see something unique about it. And so this is diabetes, and this is how it's related to Surah Al-Rahman. And these are the foods that we are not eating, and foods that we're supposed to eat, we're not eating. That's why, basically, that's why we're having type 2 diabetes. So now we messed up. What you gonna do about it? Again, we have to go to Tibb al-Nabawi. And it's very unfortunate. Wallahi, a very unique medical system that is underrated, even by Muslims, and it's very unfortunate. I met one medical doctor. I was called, and he was called. We are about to see one sheikh. He has some medical condition. And so when we met at the sheikh's place, you know, we started, mashallah, talking among ourselves, and he said, "Oh, doctor this, doctor that, and this." And he asked me, and I said, "Oh, I'm a medical student." At that time, mashallah, this is in South America. And so I said, this problem can easily be solved with prophetic medicine. This can be solved. We don't need medication, we can solve this with prophetic medicine. And the doctor, a Muslim, you know what he told me? "Yes, but what?" He said, yes, but with prophetic medicine there is no dose, it's just, the prophet just mentioned them, no dose. But what about allopathic medicine, this conventional medicine? No book came from the sky with those. There is a painstaking research, trial and error, as to see if we will reduce to this gram or this macro, this. Why can't we do the same thing with Tibb al-Nabawi? Why not? A medical system that has its root in Quran and Sunnah, how can it fail? And in our community, they've seen the wonders. And so I remember once our professor was, from allopathic point of view, telling us about this, that, about diabetes and this, and since diabetes cannot be cured, you put the patient on medication for the rest of his life. If he develop this side effect, you give him this. So I told our professor, I said, type 2 diabetes cannot be cured. So I said, not me, by God's will, I can cure type 2 diabetes. I can reverse it. I have done it, and I can do it right now. I have my own protocol from Tibb al-Nabawi. What is that? I say prophetic medicine. It's a medical system that is sourced from Quran and Sunnah. And this professor is not a Muslim. He said, I said, yes. I have testimonial reports. And I'm not saying that. I say, give me a type 2 diabetic. Give me. And I put him on protocol. And inshallah, within a month, I can reverse his type 2 diabetes. And I'm not the one doing it. I'm saying that inshallah. Or at least he will, like if you give him medication that you give me, it comes to a point where he doesn't even have to take medication. I say, give me a patient and let me put him on that protocol. And so he asked me, myself, I'm having this, that. He didn't ask me in the class. After that, he said, okay, myself, I'm having this condition. What is it in that your prophetic medicine? I said, with this, you use this, you use this, you use that. And that professor is an Indian. He's Indian, so he said, I believe that. Because I remember when I was young, my grandmother used to treat these symptoms with one of the list of herbs that we gave is one of them. But now we so caught up in this medication, everything medication, so sometimes we seem to forget. And that is the uniqueness of Tibb Nabawi. And so now, this is diabetes, simplified. These are the causes. And the symptoms, we have what we call the 3 polys. Polyuria, which means too much peeing. Polydipsia, too much excessive thirst. And polyphagia, excessive hunger. And then of course you have blood vision and other stuff, but these are the 3 main signs. These are 3 main signs of or symptoms of type 2 diabetes. Sometimes a person might have unexplained weight loss, irritability, confusion, and stuff. And so, how do we solve the problem? We messed up. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always Rahman ar-Rahim. And so He assures, La taqnatu min rahmatillah. We shouldn't give up the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are we going to do about it? Then now we have to think of the way the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to eat. The Prophet ﷺ, according to Lamartine, during his time was the most busiest man on the surface of the earth. You see how active the Prophet ﷺ was? If the Prophet ﷺ was engaged in physical activity, exercise, jogging, there is no reason whatsoever that we should be sedentary. That is the first thing that we should inculcate in our lives. We should be active. And sometimes when we say exercise, someone will say, but it's very cold. Somebody might say, Allah, how could a sister walk out jogging on the street? And you don't have to do that. Even in your home, if you can walk very, kind of like you are trying to catch up with someone, or in other words, to meet your bus or train. You walk briskly. If you can walk briskly for 20 to 30 minutes, your body translates that as what? As exercise. If you have been sedentary for a long time, you don't start with 20, no, you can start with 3 minutes. Every 2 weeks, you add just a little bit. 4 minutes, 5 minutes till your body adjusts, then you can walk briskly for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Even if it's in like within your apartment, walking in, out, like you go there and come back. You get my point? Maybe from living room to bedroom, and just find somewhere, and mashallah with brothers. Even if you come and park your car here, you can, take a walk. Walk briskly. And then inshallah come into masjid. If you can jog, fine. But walking is also very, very, very effective. And then we keep soda. It's killing us. Now it's even worse. They don't use sugar anymore. They use high fructose corn syrup. And our kids are hooked up. We love them and we literally killing them with love. We buy them any type of soda. And then we we buy all these refined carbohydrates. If we go to our supermarket, we don't even read the label anymore. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلْيَنْظُرُ الْإِنسَانِ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ. Man should step back and watch that which he eats. But today we don't read the label. We don't watch that which we eat. Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings. And then eating right. We just eat. As if that has nothing to do with Islam. Now if we calculate complex carbohydrates, whole grains, and get rid of the refined carbohydrates or the polished rice, the polished wheat, the white bread and stuff. If you can get rid of that, get rid of sugar. If you don't have honey, be patient. Or use stevia, maple syrup, xylitol. Very, 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 very powerful. As a matter of fact, if you are having catarrh, if your doctor approves, use xylitol spray within 3 minutes and see what happens. These are not only sweet, they have antimicrobial, antifungal properties. They fight bacteria. So you're enjoying it and it's promoting your health. If you go to www.ramathai.org, see the list of how many different ways that sugar can harm your health. And when I say sugar, I mean sugar. Sometimes there is this myth that, oh no, I'm not using, I'm only using brown sugar. I say brown sugar is healthier. That's a myth. And all these, according to, I didn't see it. There's been a report of how all these sugar substitutes are equally bad to your health. Someone say, but yeah, I would like to take honey. But now we have mixed honey and stuff, and some honey, junk honey. If you will have honey and pour it on the floor, it coils at one place, just like lead. That's a sign of good honey. If you put much in it, wipe it, and strike the box, it will stay late. That's a sign of good honey. If you pour it in water, it goes all the way down and settle. It doesn't mix with the water. Eat that easy. That's a sign of good honey. If it's in a bottle and you turn it over, just look at how it dips in back. At the end of the day, you see it like hanging. But if it goes like ta 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 and stops, it's mixed honey. All these are ways that you can know good honey. And there is of course stevia, S-T-E-V-I-A, stevia. It's not only sweet, it's even good for diabetics. And we have xylitol, we have maple syrup. MashaAllah, we can derive from these. That said, if you can take this sunnah and put it in practice, the Prophet ﷺ, according to Aisha radiallahu anhu, sometimes stays on raw food for 1 month. No cooked food for 1 month. If you can only eat, the only cooked food to be lentils, mentioned in Quran chapter 2 verse 61, and the lentils family, we call it the legumes, the beans. And this is the protocol. Sometimes, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about, in the Quran, about the food, about different types of food, among that food, if you can deduce that from Surah Abasa, we have herbs. And Salama radiallahu anha and Bilal radiallahu anhu, they speak about what? Medicinal herbs. From this, if you will have bitter melon, a piece of bitter melon. In Sahih Muslim, we derive lemon. So you have bitter melon and lemon with the skin on. And cucumber, also mentioned in Quran chapter 2 verse 61. And then we blend it and use it. And then stay away from all this junk food that we mentioned. And then mashallah, if you will have like kale and the cabbage and bok choy, these, like blend them and drink. You can use grape juice, or you can use apple juice in your blender. Put this. You can even put banana to make it a little bit smoothie, and you can also put avocado. So you have one banana, you have avocado, you have your celery, or you have your cabbage, you have your kale. You blend, you drink, and then you have this combination, and the only cooked food that you use is beans or lentils. And you engage in exercise in a month. Inshallah, go back and let your doctor measure your blood sugar level. But the question is, are we ready to stick to the protocol? We love sugar so much, it's not easy to let it go. White flour. And this white thing we call sugar, the sweet that turns into sour. Sweet that turns into sour once it gets inside your system. And studies have shown that if you take sugar for the next 2 to 4 hours, it can suppress your immune system. So very definitely it's halal, but it's not tayyib. Bay leaf, cinnamon, mentions in Tibul Nabawi of Imam As-Suyuti. Fenugreek, according to Imam Ibn Qayyim, it was given to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu when the Prophet ﷺ visited him in Mecca. And they used fenugreek to treat him. What is so unique about fenugreek? It contains a whole lot of nutrients and some powerful compounds. A source of saponin. And this is the secret why it's good for married men. Did you know that it's good for men? Because it contains saponin. It contains saponin, coumarin, p-coumaric acid, vanillic acid, and it contains vanadium. And that is what is good for diabetes. Even today, if you go to a health food store, if you are buying supplement for diabetes, they tell you one of the best is what? Vanadium sulfate. It's from that vanadium. You have it from this. If Sallaw radiallahu anhu will use it, which means it's good. Garlic. Even though the Prophet ﷺ is telling us that we shouldn't take it, we shouldn't eat garlic and come to the masjid because the smell. And even though, mashallah, if you dip it in milk for some time, it kills the smell. And here I'm forced to ask, If eating garlic and coming to the masjid is not good, even though garlic is healthy, what about cigarettes? Maybe you not believe me, but you see a Muslim. Sometimes you see a Muslim smoking, deliberately killing himself intentionally because he knows that. There's no one single smoker who doesn't know it's not. Even the kuffar, they know it's not good for your health. And it's written on the box, but we're doing it. The Prophet ﷺ was reported to have told Ali radiallahu anhu to use garlic. And yet we don't see the medicinal benefit of it. It contains more than 100 compounds. Ginger, mentioned in Surah Al-Nisa, Surah Al-Insan. They say one of the most active ingredients is what? Zingiber. But zingiber is not English. So where is this word coming from? Kana mizajuha zanjabila. So this is where you get the zanjabil. From our Quran. And yet we're not using it. Well, I was surprised. When I was back in our medical school, I was asked to give speech. That was one for the first time I came to know that, you see this white coat that Muslims are wearing, it was Imam Zuhri who first suggested that to medical professionals. So medicine is ours. Look at Ibn Sina. Till this day, we referring to his books. Galen, for 500 years, was said to be the best physician. 500 years, could you imagine that? And yet he couldn't figure out pulmonary circulation until Ibn Nafis came. But even today, if you look instead of Ibn Nafis, they've been unjust. They say it's Harvey. But Ibn Nafis was there almost 100 years before Harvey was born. It's just like flight. They tell you, flight starts with what? Wright brothers. But Ibn Firnas was the first to start to fly. This is part of our legacy. And so when we inculcate all these into our lives, back again, one of the superstars in treating type 2 diabetes. When you put this forward, they said, hey, it doesn't have scientific background, and if Salama radiallahu anha will speak about it, which means it's unique. It's not just, it's our mother. And so, mashallah, when I traveled to India, in my quest for Tibb al-Nabawi, I met some of the best in the world when it comes to Tibb al-Nabawi. And when we were talking about diabetes, they said something that shocked me. They say, diabetes has to do with the liver. They gave me the literature, and pancreas, it's barely mentioned. So I was like, this is not what I was taught in medical school. You ask each and every medical doctor, allopathic doctor or conventional, go to any hospital, ask them about type 2 diabetes or any diabetes for that matter, apart from diabetes insipidus. They say it's problem of what? Pancreas. And that's what I just mentioned. This is from allopathic point of view. But they're saying that is the liver. I almost reject that. But as a Muslim, we should be open-minded. And I also remember during my research, there was one herb that I found to be unique. It's called tarragon. It cures, yes, Tarragon. It's very effective in treating diabetes, but it has nothing to do with the pancreas. So what is it targeting? So I asked them further, teach me. The moment you become arrogant, you lose. So instead of arguing, teach me. That's when they took it from the other angle, where the liver can help. I spoke about insulin resistant. The liver having what is called insulin-like growth factor, IGF, can help the body to be receptive to insulin, and that takes pressure off the pancreas, and so the problem solved. I was, oh my God, they never taught us this in medical school. And guess what? They are not only saying it, they are showing you results. They are treating people, you know, two of the best from natural medicine and from prophetic medicine, two of the best herbs or substance that you can use for the liver is milk thistle, because it contains silymarin, and also cordyceps. And then you have chlorella that can be derived from Surah Al-Furqan. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, wa huwa alladhi marada al-bahrayn hadha 'azbun furatun wa hadha milhun ujaja wa ja'ala baynahuma barzakhan wa hijran mahjura." And that is the source of chlorella. And that is extremely helpful. And so when they presented this, of course, the conventional medicine will have every right to that. So they say, you know what? Why don't we put both? Let's put them to test. You bring the best medication, and we are going to provide this. And let's see the results. And so they divided two groups. Allopathic medicine brought metformin with the man. And people using prophetic medicine and the natural medicine, they brought berberine. Berberine, B-E-R-B-E-R-I-N-E, berberine. And guess what? Berberine tablet, the best diabetes medication. Berberine tablet, metformin, 500 milligrams 3 times a day. It did the job. And that is when I understood why some of the best teas, like in the morning, tea that you can use if you are diabetic, bearberry, and bilberry. Like, you know, bearberry, and bilberry. Bearberry contains what? It contains berberine. It's a source of berberine. Bilberry helps with circulation, and it helps with the eyes. So it helps protect you from what is called diabetic neuropathy and diabetic retinopathy. And berberine, because it's a source of what? Berberine stabilizes your blood sugar level. And as I did mention of lentils and legumes, I'm saying that if you can do this for a whole month, the only cooked food you eat is either lentils or beans. And mashallah, using these, I'm saying if your doctor approves, in a month, inshallah, go back to your doctor and let him measure your blood sugar level. Especially when you're using, you have berberine, and when you're about to eat, you have cinnamon, mentioned in Tibb al-Nabawi of Imam As-Suyuti. And when it comes to food, even in your smoothie, you have your avocado, you have your one banana, you have your kale washed, and before you wash your vegetables, please, before you wash your vegetables, you have water. The Prophet ﷺ was reported to have said in Sahih Bukhari that water is purifier. I want to purify this because of chemicals. You put it, because if it's organic, alhamdulillah. If it's not organic, at least you put it in water. The Prophet ﷺ did mention about the power of vitamin C when he mentions about citrus fruit in Sahih Muslim. So you have your lemon. If you have half lemon, you squeeze it in. Again, In hadith, we have vinegar. And vinegar is also very, very, very good when it comes to treatment of diabetes. And so you have your vinegar, and then you have your baking soda. You put your vegetables, leave it like 7 to 9 minutes. It doesn't really matter, it can be 8 minutes or 10 minutes. But as a Muslim, you always want the art. So you Islamize even the way you wash your vegetables. Right? So you 7 or 9 or 11 minutes. You throw the water out, you rinse it. So that takes it close to being organic. At least according to study, it can take care of up to 80 to 90% of the chemicals used during mashallah, farming and stuff. So by using this, let's say now you wash your vegetables, you have your avocado, you have 1 banana, you either use water, apple juice, or grape juice to sweeten it. You have your berberine, you exercise, you stay away from all this junk food that you spoke about. If you have to eat cooked food, it should be either lentils or this. And inshallah, make sure that in your sujood, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for shifa. After all, for Ali lima you read, you can do whatever you want, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can still test you. And so, on top of all this, dua. And inshallah, when you go back to your doctor, inshallah, he will be the one to be a witness. And so this is what I mean by just by violating Surah Al-Rahman, we are paying the price of type 2 diabetes. As a Muslims, we should eat right and invite people to eat right. If we are healthy, because we eating right, they will be wondering, how come we hardly see any Muslim with diabetes? So what is their secret? Of course, they're going to ask us. A doctor can ask, why is it that we don't see Muslims with diabetes, even though we live in the same country? That presents what? Opportunity for what? What you call medical da'wah. You tell him, this is what our book says. From Quran and Sunnah, this is how we should be eating, and this is what we should be eating. We should avoid this, we should avoid that. And so before he tells you these are the causes of type 2 diabetes, 1,400 years ago, your religion has taught you how to eat right. And so this is what I mean by, this is our responsibility to our community. This is our responsibility to America. 1 million of us each year. And guess what? We are not showing them the way, we are actually part of it. So let us just go back to our roots. When we are healthy, we have every reason to tell them, listen, this is from Quran and Sunnah. They say, Jewish. We were told that their book is always about do this and crime and this. So no. That has nothing to do with Islam. And this is what you benefit from what? Medical branch of Islam, and that will impress them. Wallahi, in medical school, some of our professors, behind the door, they are my patients. They are benefiting directly from Tibb Nabawi, directly. And this is the power of Tibb Nabawi. This is something we should take seriously and inculcate in into our lives. I'm not condemning medication, but I'm saying that Islam has solution to our even medical problems. If you have to combine that with medication in some instances, fine. But for everything running to medication as if Islam has no solution, try it and inshallah you will see the results. I'm going to inshallah stop here. If you have a question or if the Sheikh wants to have a question after Salat, I don't know exactly what time it is. So inshallah I'm going to stop here. So if you have questions, inshallah you can ask. I hope I didn't take much of your time. As a matter of fact, I'm now beginning to warm up. So I will feel like continuing, but I've been given the time for Salat, so I just wanted us to squeeze it in. So I hope inshallah these are what we can do, and then extend message to our non-Muslim brothers and sisters in humanity, inshallah. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكن من الخاسرين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.